Imagine being offered the most visible position on Earth. Magazine covers whenever you want them. Invitations to every gala, every premiere, every exclusive event that exists. Recognition everywhere you go. Millions knowing your name, your face, your story. All you have to do is say yes to fame. Now imagine saying no, deliberately, consciously, choosing to remain invisible when the spotlight is yours for the taking. Most people can't imagine this. Most people spend their entire lives chasing the attention that would be handed to Elon Musk's partner on a silver platter. But here's the truth nobody talks about. The woman who could actually last with Elon Musk, who could build something real, something permanent, something that survives his impossible life, would likely make exactly that choice. She would choose privacy over fame, obscurity over attention, silence over applause, and that choice wouldn't be weakness. It would be the wisest decision she could possibly make. Stay with me, because understanding why someone would reject fame when they could have it might change everything you believe about attention, success, and what actually creates a fulfilling life. We live in the age of visibility. Everyone wants to be seen. Social media has turned attention into currency, followers into status, visibility into validation. We've been trained to believe that being known is the ultimate achievement, that recognition equals worth, that the more people who see you, the more you matter. And for most people, this equation holds. They chase visibility. They optimize for attention. They measure their lives by how many eyes are watching. But what about someone who would be handed visibility they didn't earn? What about someone who would receive fame not through their own achievement, but through proximity to someone else's spotlight? That's the position Elon Musk's partner would be in. Instant fame, automatic recognition, the world's attention delivered without effort. For most people, this would be irresistible, the fantasy fulfilled, the shortcut to everything they've been chasing. But for the woman who could actually build a lasting relationship with Elon, it would be something to resist, something to guard against, something to deliberately, consciously reject, not because she couldn't handle fame, but because she would understand something most people never learn. Fame costs more than it gives, and privacy is worth more than attention. Here's what might surprise you. The desire to avoid fame isn't about shyness. It's not about insecurity. It's not about being unable to handle attention. It's about understanding what attention actually does. Fame changes you, not always in ways you notice at first, but slowly, inevitably, fundamentally. When you're constantly observed, you start performing. When everything you do might be reported, you become calculated. When strangers have opinions about your life, you lose ownership of your own story. Fame creates a prison disguised as a palace. You're celebrated and trapped, known and never truly seen, visible and profoundly alone. The woman who would choose privacy over fame wouldn't be avoiding something she can't handle. She would be avoiding something she understands completely. She would know what fame costs. She would have seen it in others. Maybe she would have tasted it herself. And from that knowledge, she would make a different choice. Not to be invisible because she's small, but to be invisible because she values what visibility destroys. Authenticity, intimacy, the freedom to be herself without an audience. That's the twist. Choosing privacy isn't weakness. It's wisdom. The wisdom to know what matters. And the strength to protect it. Let me explain what fame actually costs. First, it costs authenticity. When you know you're being watched, you stop being fully yourself. You edit, you curate, you become a character instead of a person. Even in your most private moments, there's awareness of potential observation. What if someone sees? What if this gets out? What would people think? These questions become constant background noise, and they change who you are. You can't be fully authentic when you're constantly aware of an audience. You can only be a performance of yourself, a calculated version, a managed image. The real you, the one that exists without observers, gets pushed further and further away, until you forget who that person even was. Second, fame costs privacy in the relationship itself. Every argument becomes potential tabloid content. Every bad day is at risk of becoming public. Every intimate moment carries the question, is this just between us? Relationships need protected space to grow. They need arguments that stay between two people. They need vulnerable moments that don't become gossip. They need the safety of knowing that what happens in the relationship stays in the relationship. Fame destroys that protection. It invites the world into spaces that should be sacred. And once the world is in, it never fully leaves. Third, fame costs freedom. You can't go anywhere without being recognized. Can't have a bad day in public. Can't exist without managing how you appear. Every restaurant becomes a potential photograph. Every vacation becomes content for strangers. Every moment of your life becomes partly owned by the public. This is the cost. Authenticity, privacy, freedom. The woman who could last with Elon Musk would understand these costs. Not abstractly, but viscerally. And she would choose to avoid them. Not because she's hiding, because she's protecting what matters. Here's something important to understand. Choosing privacy over fame requires deep security. Most people chase visibility because they need external validation. They need others to see them, to feel seen. They need applause to feel worthy. They need recognition to feel like they exist. This isn't weakness exactly, it's human. We're social creatures. Attention feels like love. Visibility feels like value. But the woman who could choose privacy over fame would have moved beyond this. She would have developed internal validation, a sense of worth that doesn't need external confirmation, an identity that exists solidly regardless of who's watching. She would know who she is, not because the world tells her, because she tells herself, and from that knowing, fame becomes unnecessary. Attention becomes optional. Visibility becomes a choice rather than a need. This security is rare. It's developed through inner work, through facing your own insecurities, through building a sense of self that doesn't depend on others. Most people never do this work. They spend their lives seeking validation they could generate internally, but the woman who could partner with Elon would have done it. She would be so secure in herself that the most visible spotlight on earth holds no appeal, not because she can't have it, because she doesn't need it. And that difference between can't and don't need is everything. Let me share some examples of people who chose privacy over fame. Many of the most successful relationships involve partners who deliberately avoided the spotlight. Warren Buffett's wife, Astrid, lived in relative obscurity for decades. Despite being married to one of the world's most famous investors, she maintained a private existence. No magazine covers, no public persona, just a life lived outside the glare. And their relationship lasted. Steven Spielberg's wife, Kate Capshaw, gradually withdrew from public life despite having been an actress herself. She understood that the healthiest thing for her family was privacy, not because she couldn't handle fame she'd experienced it, but because she valued what privacy protected. Jeff Bezos' long marriage to Mackenzie was marked by her deliberate avoidance of spotlight. For decades, while he became increasingly famous, she remained largely invisible, focused on her own work, protective of her private life, uninterested in the attention that proximity to him would provide. The pattern is consistent. Partners who last with famous men often deliberately choose obscurity, not as sacrifice, as strategy. They understand that protecting privacy protects the relationship, that avoiding fame allows authenticity to survive, that staying invisible is often the wisest choice of all. Let me describe what privacy actually protects. First, it protects intimacy. Intimacy requires safety, the safety to be fully yourself, to say things you wouldn't say publicly, to show sides of yourself that aren't camera ready, to have moments that belong only to two people. When privacy is compromised, intimacy erodes. You can't be fully vulnerable with someone when you're worried about exposure. You can't share your deepest fears when those fears might become headlines. You can't build the kind of closeness that lasting love requires. Privacy is the container that allows intimacy to exist. Without it, you get a public relationship, a performance of love. With it, you get actual love, the kind that happens off camera. Second, privacy protects identity. When you become publicly known as Elon Musk's wife, that becomes your identity. Everything else you are gets subsumed. Your career becomes secondary to who you're married to.
Your opinions become interesting only in relation to him. Your existence becomes defined by proximity rather than personhood. But when you maintain privacy, you remain yourself. Your identity stays your own. You're still a full person, not just an extension of someone else. This is crucial for lasting partnership. Two full people create healthy relationships. One person absorbed into another's identity creates dysfunction. Third, privacy protects the relationship's evolution. Relationships need to grow, to change, to go through difficult phases and emerge stronger. When those phases are public, they become frozen. The world forms opinions. Those opinions create pressure. And the relationship can't evolve naturally because it's performing for an audience. But in privacy, growth can happen organically. Hard times can be weathered without commentary. The relationship can become whatever it needs to become without outside interference. That's what privacy protects. And that's why someone wise would choose it over fame. Let's explore the psychology of someone who would choose invisibility when fame is available. She would have a strong internal locus of control. This means she determines her own worth, her own direction, her own values, rather than looking to the external world for these. She doesn't need validation because she validates herself. She doesn't need recognition because she recognizes herself. She doesn't need the world to tell her she matters because she already knows. This psychological profile is rare. Most people have external locus of control to some degree. They look outward for cues about their value, but she would look inward. Her satisfaction would come from living according to her own values, not from how many people witness her doing so. She would have processed any desire for fame and moved beyond it. Most people who don't seek fame have simply never had the opportunity. They would chase it if they could, but she would have the opportunity, unlimited opportunity, and consciously decline. This requires having worked through whatever drives the desire for attention, having understood it, having integrated it, having reached a place where attention is genuinely unnecessary, not repressed, not avoided, genuinely transcended. She would find meaning in experience itself, not in its observation. A beautiful moment wouldn't need to be shared to be valuable. An achievement wouldn't need to be recognized to be real. A life wouldn't need to be witnessed to be meaningful. This is a different relationship with existence than most people have. One where the experience is enough, where the thing itself matters more than how it's perceived. That's the psychology of someone who could choose privacy over fame. And that's the psychology that would allow her to thrive with someone as visible as Elon Musk. Now let me explain why Elon specifically would need a partner who values privacy over fame. His spotlight is already overwhelming. He's arguably the most visible person on Earth. Everything he does generates headlines. Adding another fame seeker to that equation would be unsustainable. Two people competing for attention. Two public personas to manage. Two sets of headlines to navigate. It would be chaos. But a partner who values privacy brings balance. She removes energy from the public sphere, rather than adding it. She creates protected space, rather than demanding exposure. She becomes the hidden dimension of his life, the part that belongs only to him. His life lacks privacy already. Every day brings more exposure, more observation, more public existence. A partner who wants fame would just add to this. Another public relationship, another performance, another layer of visibility in a life already drowning in it. But a partner who values privacy, she becomes the counterbalance. The space where he can actually hide. The relationship that exists outside the glare. His past relationships suffered from visibility. The public nature of his previous relationships didn't help them. The constant scrutiny, the tabloid attention, the impossibility of privacy. These factors contributed to the difficulties. A partner who values privacy would protect against this. She would guard the relationship's private space. She would refuse the spotlight that destroys intimacy. She would choose obscurity as an act of love. Now let me speak directly to you, because this isn't just about Elon Musk and a hypothetical future wife. This is about your relationship with visibility, your relationship with attention, your relationship with being seen. Ask yourself honestly, do you seek visibility because you genuinely value it, or because you need it to feel worthy? Do you share your life publicly because it enriches your experience, or because experiences feel incomplete without an audience? Do you want recognition because it serves you, or because you can't validate yourself without it? These are important questions, because the chase for visibility often destroys what matters most. It corrupts authentic moments into performances. It transforms private joys into public content. It trades depth for breadth, real experience for witnessed experience. But there's another way. You can choose privacy. You can let moments be just moments, not content. You can have relationships that exist only between the people in them. You can live a life that doesn't require an audience to matter. This doesn't mean hiding, doesn't mean shame, doesn't mean avoiding all visibility forever. It means choosing consciously, protecting what deserves protection, keeping sacred things sacred, knowing that not everything needs to be seen to be real. Imagine this. Elon Musk has met someone. The world doesn't know her name. There are no photographs of them together circulating, no magazine profiles, no Instagram appearances. She exists entirely outside his public world. And this is by choice, not hers. She was offered the spotlight, invited to events that would put her on every screen, given opportunities for recognition that most people spend their lives pursuing, and she said no. Every time, she understood what fame would cost, the authenticity she'd have to abandon, the privacy she'd have to sacrifice, the identity she'd have to submerge into his, and she valued herself too much to make that trade. So she chose invisibility. The world knows Elon. The world doesn't know her. And she likes it that way. She has her own life, full, rich, completely separate from his fame. Her own friends who know her for her, not for who she's dating. Her own accomplishments that don't get filtered through her proximity to him. Her own identity that remains fully intact. And when they're together in the spaces that no one else sees, something exists that couldn't exist in public. Real intimacy, unperformed moments, love that doesn't need an audience. He looks at her sometimes with something like wonder. Everyone else wants his spotlight. Everyone else would take the fame if offered. But she doesn't want it. She's chosen him and rejected everything that comes with being publicly his. She's chosen the man over the brand, the private person over the public figure, the relationship over the recognition, and in that choice, she's given him something more valuable than any fame could provide. The experience of being loved for who he is, not what he represents, who he is, in the privacy of rooms where the world can't watch, where he's not performing, where he's just a man with a woman living something real. That's what her choice of privacy over fame creates. Something the spotlight could never allow. Something only the shadows make possible. Real love, unseen, unwitnessed, and more valuable because of it. Here's the deeper lesson. Privacy is not just absence of attention. It's presence of something that attention destroys. It's the space where authenticity survives, where intimacy is possible, where identity remains your own. The woman who would choose privacy over fame understands this. She's not running from something. She's protecting something. The most valuable things in life, genuine connection, authentic self-expression, real love, are fragile. They wilt under too much preservation. They perform when watched. They lose their essential nature when made public. Privacy protects these things. Fame destroys them. It's that simple. And the person who understands this, who values what privacy protects over what fame provides, possesses rare wisdom. The wisdom to know what actually matters, the strength to protect it, and the security to not need the world to validate what she already knows. That's who Elon Musk's future wife would need to be. Someone who looks at fame and says, no thank you, not because she can't handle it, because she doesn't need it, and values what it would cost. So here's what I want you to take from this. Privacy is not a consolation prize. It's not what you settle for when you can't have fame. It's a choice, a wise choice. Maybe the wisest choice in a world that's forgotten how to keep anything private. Elon Musk's future wife may value privacy over fame because she understands something most people never learn. That being unseen is sometimes the greatest freedom. That life without audience is sometimes the most authentic. That love without witness is sometimes the most real. She would choose invisibility not from weakness, from wisdom, from security, from knowing her own worth so deeply that external validation becomes unnecessary. And in making that choice, she would protect something precious. The possibility of real connection, real intimacy, real love, away from the glare, in the spaces where only two people exist, where fame can't reach, where privacy makes everything possible. That's why Elon Musk's future wife may value privacy.